I'm Anthony. We're once again here at the Basement Reef. If this is your first time tuning into our channel, we're a retail store in Columbia, Missouri that sells saltwater and freshwater aquarium livestock, as well as all manner of tropical houseplants. As you may have guessed from the video title, today we're here to work on two small fish tanks, one saltwater and one fresh. This here is going to be the saltwater tank. When we first set up our store, we had this running as a nice little Pico tank. But just getting used to, the whole workflow of a new store and all that, it really got away from us, and one day I just unplugged it, and this is where it's at. The other tank we're going to be working on today is this little marine land contour. This similarly used to be set up as a little freshwater Betta tank. Betta, after a couple of months, unfortunately passed away. And same sort of deal here. We just really let this tank go, unplugged it, and it's sat like this. And it's about time to get both of these tanks rocking and rolling and looking nice like they should. Now, let's take a look at the tanks that we're going to be using for this project. This first one that we're going to use for the saltwater Pico tank is a 10-inch by 10-inch by 10-inch cube from Deep Blue. Unfortunately, they don't manufacture tanks anymore. I've had this guy for a while, and I really like it. It equates to about 4 1/3 gallons. Obviously, through all this evaporation and everything like that, we have salt creep, hard water stains, the whole 9 yards. So this project is going to have to start with cleaning this guy up and getting him back as close to new shape as we can. The other tank, the one that we'll be using for the freshwater side of this project, is a 3-gallon marine land contour tank. It also has some hard water stains, again, from evaporation. But the filter on this guy is actually still running, so this is in a little bit better shape than that other tank, and we'll really just need some elbow grease and we can get this one going. Starting with the saltwater tank, off camera we have emptied it of its contents, given it a quick rinse in the sink, and gotten as much of that old sand out as we can. And now we've gathered a couple of materials to really get this thing clean and shining again. This here is a bottle of what we call tank cleaner that I mixed up. Traditionally, I like to do equal parts reverse osmosis filtered water, rubbing alcohol, and white vinegar in here. Today, I did not have any white vinegar, so this is just a half and half mix of rubbing alcohol and reverse osmosis filtered water. Again, use RO water if you can, because any tap water is going to leave behind hard water stains, and that's exactly what we're trying to get rid of. Just again, spray some of your tank cleaner mix in there. You're also going to want to have a towel and a nice heavy-duty scraper blade, something like a razor blade, or again, there's plenty of aquarium products that have this nice heavy-duty edge on it. Then between those two items, a little bit of elbow grease. You can see that all those hard water stains, salt stains, everything like that cleans right off of there. So with a little bit more work, this thing is going to be looking good as new. After just a few minutes of work and one more rinse in the sink to get rid of any remnants of the tank cleaner, we once again have something that looks pretty good. And this is a really nice starting point for our tank today. As I said earlier, the freshwater tank is actually still running with a little bit of water in the bottom of it. And getting a closer look, the hard water stains are not all that bad. With just a soft scrubber and dipping it in that water that's already in the tank, we're actually going to be able to get most of this cleaned up. Once again, with just a few minutes of work, we have this tank looking pretty nice. We've even uncovered our old aquascape from the first time we had this running. I think we're actually going to use that. We have some dragonstone here in the front stacked up, some little pieces. And then in back, a nice arching piece of mapani wood. This looks pretty clean in here once we got all of the glass cleared up. So we're gonna go ahead and stick to it. When it comes to the aquascape for the 4-gallon saltwater Pico Reef, we really have two core options. That is dry rock or live rock. Live rock refers to rock that is already wet and already populated with live saltwater bacteria. That is the bacteria that breaks down fish waste and allows you to have a fish tank without it becoming a toxic soup of ammonia and nitrites. There is a whole process involved for turning dry rock into live rock, but it's very involved and we won't do that for this video. We'll save that for another time. Today, simply because it's going to allow us to get this tank stocked up faster, we're gonna go with live rock. A quick tip whenever you go to the store looking for rocks and other aquascape materials for your tanks. It's not very feasible to bring your tank with you, but it can be really hard to judge size and things like that and pick stuff out at the store that's going to actually fit in your tank. So one thing you can do is just find a piece of cardboard or anything like that and trace around your tank. Bring this into the store with you. Then when you play around with rocks, you can see what fits and what doesn't. For our saltwater Pico aquascape, we've gone with a short, almost cave sort of look, constructed from 3 small pieces of tonga branch and a little cap to top it off. This might look like kind of a strange aquascape, but I really think that when we get to the portion of the video where you guys get to see what we're stocking this tank with, you'll really understand, and this will turn out quite cool. The next thing that we did was transfer our aquascape into the tank. You want to do this before you add any sand, because if you add the sand first, your livestock might move the sand and collapse the aquascape. Now with sand, just like the rock, you have a choice between live sand and dry. That is sand that already has live saltwater bacteria and sand that doesn't. Again, we went with live sand in this video, and that's because it's going to give us a head start and really allow us to start stocking this tank sooner rather than later. Now it's time to fill the tank. You want to make sure that your water is at the proper salinity and proper temperature. Here at the store, we keep it at a tropical 78 degrees, so the water is already up to temp, and it's also why we won't be running a heater in either of these tanks. Fill it up slowly and make sure not to disturb any of the sand. Otherwise, this will need to clear for a day. The final few things you'll want to consider when setting up your saltwater Pico Reef are lighting, filtration, and flow. For our light, we're going to use this Kessel A360. It's honestly overkill, but we know that it's going to do the job, and that if anything, lighting is never going to be the problem if we're struggling to grow a coral. What light should you use? Honestly, whatever light you have access to. Nowadays, most saltwater lights do a pretty good job, and even if you can't grow SPS and all the crazy fancy corals, if you get something that's marketed as a reef light, chances are you're at least going to be able to grow some softies in there. Now, as far as filtration, we're going to let the live rock do a lot of the work for us. You can throw a hang-on back filter on these guys. I've done that before. It helps to add a lot of flow and stuff like that, and then if you're ever having problems, you have a filter chamber that you can toss media into, but I'm not going to do that this time. I'm trying to keep this as simple as possible. Keeping with that theme, the only aeration that we're going to have and flow is going to be from one single air stone in the back. In the past, I've ran a sponge filter on here, but again, we want to keep this as simple as possible and show you how easy this can be. We have also filled up the freshwater tank with dechlorinated tap water. As we discussed earlier, the aquascape is already done here. We used the mopani wood and the dragonstone. It looked good last time we had this set up. I think it's going to still look good this time we have it set up. But let's talk a little bit about if we were starting from scratch with the aquascape. The main things you're going to want to consider are if the aquascape is going to affect the conditions of the water parameters. The mopani wood in here will lower the pH, but that's actually really good. Here in Columbia, Missouri, we have incredibly hard water with incredibly high pH. This helps us to keep a lot of fish. The dragonstone, that's absolutely inert. That's not going to affect things one way or the other. Same with the substrate that we use. Now, if you're wanting to keep something that liked a little bit harder water, maybe some nano species from like one of the lakes in Africa or something, then you'll want to look for some aragonite or something like that to really boost the pH. But we're going with this because it lowers it. Now, what are some other rocks you could use besides the dragonstone? Well, 2 that we really like here at the store are the zebra rock and petrified wood. These are 2 more that you can really use to create some stunning aquascapes. So what about the livestock? Well, for the saltwater tank, we really need to think about what the conditions of the tank we've just set up are. And for us, that's high light and low flow. So I'm trying to think of some corals that really like high light and low flow. Some things that come to mind are zoanthids. I think that they'll really encrust those pieces of tonga branch that we put in there well. Certain types of mushroom really like the high light. And we might go with some sort of encrusting stony coral along the lines of, I don't know, an LPS like this little favia here, and see how that does for us. And what about fish? Well, we have something really special planned for the fish in this tank. we're lucky enough to have a white-capped goby and pistol shrimp in stock here at the store. Now this guy originally shipped with a rubro maculatus pistol shrimp, which is their natural pairing that you find, you know, in the ocean. But unfortunately that pistol shrimp didn't make it. We've since paired him back up with the tiger pistol shrimp since they're much easier to get a hold of, and he's doing great. Now if you don't know about white-capped gobies, that's not surprising. They're a really rare fish. You hardly ever see them available. Let's just take a look. I think it'll speak for itself why these guys are so awesome. That takes us back to our kind of strange aquascape. Why did we do this? Well, the goby and the shrimp really like to have a little cave to hide out in, and they spend all of their time digging, and they don't really leave that spot. So if we went with the traditional aquascape, or one big rock, and they set up shop in the back of the tank, we might never see them. Doing this, I feel like wherever they decide to be, we're gonna get a really good view. Now we'll let this tank settle for at least a couple of days. We'll be testing it closely, waiting to make sure that no ammonia or nitrites pop up, even though we're pretty sure it's not gonna happen, because this rock has been curing for a very long time, and none of those things were present in the thing that the live rock was in, so we doubt it will be here either. And what about livestock for the freshwater tank? Well, it was a Betta tank before, and that worked well for us. And we also have a bunch of really nice imported Indonesian bettas this week. And on top of that, we're in Columbia, Missouri, home of the Mizzou Tigers, and we have this yellow and black Betta fish. On top of being just an awesome and rare color, is literally the school colors here in town. So this guy will be the perfect mascot for the store. He'll go really, really well in that tank. Again, we're gonna let that tank sit for a while just to make sure that no ammonia or anything like that pops up. Then we'll get this guy in there, probably dose a little bit of stability or some other bacteria product just to make sure the ammonia doesn't spike. That's gonna be about it for this video today. We're gonna get these guys situated into their new tanks over the next few days and weeks, and we'll definitely check back in. We'll go ahead and end this video with one more look at that white-capped goby just because he's so awesome to look at. Thank you.